historic conflicts.
March 1954. Deep in a remote valley in northwest Vietnam, thunder echoes across the mountains. Not from storms, but from artillery. Thousands of French soldiers are trapped. Their air support has been cut off. Their bunkers are being overrun. And the attackers? Not another army from a global power, but tens of thousands of Vietnamese peasants, workers, and young volunteers, fighting for their homeland. This is the Battle of Dien Bien Phu, the clash that would end nearly a century of French colonial rule in Indochina. It wasn't just a military victory, it was a turning point in global history, a signal to oppressed nations everywhere that even the most powerful empires can fall. It marked the beginning of the end for colonialism in Asia and beyond. But how did a barefoot army defeat one of Europe's strongest forces? To answer that, we must go back to the start, to a plan and a trap set by the French themselves. After years of war, France believed it was time to deliver a final blow to the Viet Minh. In 1953, French General Henri Navarre proposed a bold plan: lure the Vietnamese forces into a decisive battle at a remote location of France's choosing. That location was Dien Bien Phu, a valley tucked deep in the mountains of northwest Vietnam, near the Laotian border. From a tactical map, it seemed perfect. A wide, flat valley floor, ideal for landing paratroopers and setting up an airstrip, surrounded by hills that the French believed were too steep and rugged for the Viet Minh to move heavy weapons through. A chance to force the enemy out of guerrilla warfare and into a traditional head-on clash, something the French thought they would easily win. Navarre called it a hedgehog strategy. He would build a heavily fortified base with trenches, barbed wire, artillery, and tanks, and wait for the Viet Minh to attack. And when they did, French firepower would tear them apart. "We will crush them," he declared. Thousands of French troops parachuted into the valley in late 1953. Engineers quickly constructed bunkers in a central airstrip. The camp was divided into strong points, each named after a woman: Gabrielle, Beatrice, Dominique, Eliane. To the French High Command, Dien Bien Phu was a fortress. But what they didn't know was that the Viet Minh had no intention of playing by their rules. On the other side of the mountains, General Vo Nguyen Giap, commander of the Viet Minh, studied the French trap. He knew they wanted a quick, decisive battle, so he made a choice that surprised even his own commanders. He refused to attack immediately. Instead, Giap turned to his greatest advantage: the Vietnamese people. Over the next few months, tens of thousands of soldiers, laborers, and villagers worked day and night to prepare for battle. There were no roads, no trucks, no modern supply chains. And yet, artillery weighing over 2,000 kilograms was dragged through jungles and mountains by hand and bicycle. Massive tunnels and trenches were dug into the hills, hidden from French aircraft by camouflage. Every supply, from bullets to rice, was carried on backs and shoulders through rain, mud, and darkness. It became one of the most extraordinary logistical operations in modern history. By early 1954, the Viet Minh had secretly surrounded Dien Bien Phu with an entire ring of artillery positioned on the hills that the French thought were impenetrable. From those heights, Giap's forces could rain fire directly into the French strongholds, including the airstrip. And yet, he still waited. He knew this wasn't just about weapons, it was about morale, timing, and endurance. Then came a turning point. Giap had originally planned a swift, large-scale assault. But just days before the attack, he sensed the risk of too many casualties. He made a bold, historic decision. "We will not attack recklessly. We will fight a battle of attrition, steady, calculated, and patient." It was the beginning of a new kind of warfare, combining guerrilla ingenuity with siege tactics. And when the first shots finally rang out in March 1954, the French had no idea what was coming. March 13, 1954, the night sky lit up with fire. The Viet Minh opened their assault with a thunderous artillery barrage, targeting the northern French outpost codenamed Beatrice. Within hours, the position was overrun. Over 500 French soldiers were killed or captured. The French command was stunned. They had underestimated the Viet Minh's firepower and ability to coordinate such a precise attack. Then came Gabrielle, Anne-Marie, and Huguette. Each position fell under relentless fire and infantry assaults. But the true nightmare had only begun. From the surrounding hills, Viet Minh artillery rained down 24 hours a day. The French airstrip, their lifeline for supplies and reinforcements, was crippled within days. Paratroopers dropped into the valley under fire, only to join the siege with no hope of escape. "We are completely surrounded," one French officer reported. "We cannot breathe. We cannot move. We are dying slowly." But General Giap didn't rush. His forces advanced inch by inch, digging a vast system of zigzag trenches and tunnels toward the French lines. It was trench warfare, like Verdun or the Somme, but in the jungles of Indochina. Every night, thousands of Vietnamese soldiers and volunteers moved silently, extending the trenches closer, cutting wire, preparing for the next assault. Every day, the French forces grew more exhausted, more isolated, and more desperate. Inside the French command bunker, Colonel Christian de Castries tried to hold morale. He sent frantic messages to Hanoi and Paris, pleading for more supplies, more planes, more hope. And hope, they thought, might come from across the Pacific. France appeals to America desperate. The French High Command turned to the United States, their most powerful ally. Washington drafted plans for a massive air intervention, Operation Vulture, involving over 60 B-29 bombers from bases in the Philippines, targeting the Viet Minh artillery. Some voices even proposed the use of tactical nuclear bombs. But President Dwight D. Eisenhower hesitated. Without British support, he refused to act. Prime Minister Churchill would not commit to another Asian war. In the end, the bombers never came. France would have to fight and fall alone. As April passed into May, the French lines crumbled. The final blow came on the night of May 6, 1954. The Viet Minh launched a massive coordinated assault on the last remaining French strongpoints, Elian, Dominique, and the Central Command Post. By dawn on May 7th, Vietnamese flags were raised over shattered bunkers. Colonel de Castries was captured in his underground headquarters. The battlefield fell silent. After 56 days, the once proud French garrison had fallen. Out of 16,000 troops, over 11,000 were captured, and more than 2,000 lay dead. Dien Bien Phu was not just a defeat, it was a humiliation, a collapse of confidence for the French Empire. And for the Vietnamese, it was a triumph, not just of arms, but of spirit, unity, and unshakable determination. On May 8, 1954, the world woke up to a new reality. An empire had fallen, not to tanks or bombers, but to willpower, strategy, and sacrifice. Dien Bien Phu didn't just end the First Indochina War. It forced France to the negotiating table. Just weeks later at the Geneva Conference, France agreed to withdraw from Vietnam. The country was temporarily divided at the 17th peril, a fragile peace that would not last. But across Asia, Africa, and Latin America, a powerful message had already been sent. Colonialism was no longer invincible. From Algeria to Kenya, from Cuba to Congo, independence movements drew inspiration from the tiny valley in northwest Vietnam. To this day, Dien Bien Phu is remembered not just as a battle, but as a symbol of what a people can achieve when united by purpose, by history, and by the dream of freedom. It was a victory earned inch by inch, trench by trench, fought not just with weapons, but with determination, patience, and an unbreakable spirit. Dien Bien Phu was more than a victory. It was the day the world changed direction. Thank you for respecting history. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and write the bell so you don't miss any battles.